watching KEKFILA TCG. It's a great day here at KEKFILA's YouTube channel. I am the KEKFILA. Today it's a special video. Today I am just talking about blue Doflamingo and the future of blue Doflamingo. And what that really means, there's been a lot of stuff going on, and essentially just a lot of reveals going on for the future. If you guys don't know, I've always been wanting to play blue Doflamingo. I try to make it work every set. OP05, I couldn't make it work because Sakazuki just beat it. That was my only issue. I actually had good times to everything. I do want to mention 10-drop Kaido was something I tried a lot of, and it was looking really promising until Sakazuki just removed every card, and on top of that was able to establish a wide board, which is just frustrating. So I do want to say Sakazuki's pretty good into this, but as far as this goes, I first want to say, why are we even looking at blue Doflamingo? Well, what's the even purpose? Isn't this kind of phased out? What's the point? I guess the main thing is that this is a good leader. This leader allows you to go very wide for very cheap, ends up being very efficient. And with the cards coming out and being revealed, you can actually do a lot more of different builds. And actually, it seems it's leaning more toward a specific way to play, but there is a lot of cards. I'm just going to go and talk about all the cards, and I want to be very specific. I'm going to be talking about Doflamingo in OP06, in EB01, and in OP07, which I believe most people are looking forward to OP07 blue Doflamingo, because it's actually going to be pretty cracked. So without further ado, let's get into the goo. I am going to start with OP06, and this isn't actually an OP06 card. This is a Trial Deck 12 card. But this card's pretty good. It's a Sanji Zoro deck, and essentially it's a 1K counter, but it has blocker, and more importantly, it lets you look at the top 3 cards and you can place them. So it's like a mini Perona, but it also has a blocker, and it's only a 2 cost. So honestly, such a really good card. Definitely is going to be some cards you're going to have to pick up from this trial deck if you're playing Doflamingo. One card that really should be mentioned for OP06 and beyond actually is Sanji. Sanji is a secret rare in OP06. Sanji's skill is when you play this card, you reveal the top card of the deck, you play a 9 cost or less other than a Sanji, and if you whiff for some reason, like it's an event, it just goes to the bottom of the deck. And super good card. I think you'll be seeing this a lot in OP06 and a lot of blue decks. You might be seeing this in the future for Doflamingo. But I do want to say this card's very impactful and just a big beater. You might be seeing this in combination with Mihawk. It might just be better in other decks, but it is definitely an option in Doflamingo going forward. Unfortunately, there is no cards other than that in all OP06. I'll have a deck list for sure, but I don't really think the power level of Doflamingo is going to be very good with the addition of just that card. However, going into EB01, we do get 1 card. A lot of decks end up getting a few cards. We do get 1 card in the form of Edward Weevil. It is very significant. I would definitely try this out. It's another 7 Warlords. It's a 4 cost, and it's very simple. It just draws you a card on play. It doesn't have counter, but in a deck that already gets a lot of advantage, this is pretty darn good. And combine that with the blocker from the Fishman we just got, we start to have sort of a more wide build where we can even like not play Peronas in order to do what we want to do. Really, there's nothing else until OP07. We are basically in an OP07 waiting room, but I'm going to still cook some things up in the kitchen here. Before I actually start cooking things up, I do want to mention Boa Hancock Leader. I am also going to be playing this deck and making videos on this. So make sure you guys subscribe and watch out for that when I start making videos specifically on Boa Hancock. The first character coming out in OP07 is actually Boa Hancock. It is a 7 Warlord, so it is searchable. It's the 6 cost, 8k power, really good stat line. There is no counter power with it. It's not a 4 cost, so you can't really use it with Doflamingo, but it does have a stun effect. It might be used in some builds. It probably won't be, mostly focused on Boa Hancock builds. but I want to at least mention it because it is a 7 Warlord in OP07. The first card I wanted to mention actually is Trafalgar Law, a 4-cost 4K with 2K counter power. Honestly, a really good 2K counter, and essentially you may return this character to its hand, so you can return it to your hand, and if your opponent has 6 or more cards in their hand, they put one of their cards and put them on the bottom of their deck. I actually don't think this is going to be used very well. If you're attacking with Doflamingo and you happen to just see this off the top and get it placed down, it's actually not very good. However, it's not bad to use the skill and then use that skill just to put it into your hand, especially if your opponent has to discard a card. Normally, your opponent, when they see this, they're just going to counter out so they have 5 in hand. So it's kind of a whatever card, I would say. The next card is the Super Juicer Jinbei, a 4-cost 5K. It's a super rare, so you know it's going to be super good. On play up to 1 4-cost or lower 7-cost Warlords of the Sea type character other than a Jinbei from your hand. And this is what makes this card so good, is that it actually decentivizes you from playing the Treasure Cup Jinbei, which I know a lot of you out there don't like that card because it's really expensive, and it's kind of lost its value with red being out of the meta. So I think this card's very welcome. People don't have to buy the Treasure Cup Jinbeis now, and everyone's just happy with building a wider board for free. I like to compare this card to Brook from the film set, and it just calls film cards 3 or less. This is better than that. It's calls a 4 less, and essentially that's nuts. That's really nuts. That card wins games. This card will destroy games. The next card is actually Sengoku. It is kind of interesting why they made it Sengoku, but it makes you look at the top 5 cards. You reveal 1 7 Warlord. Obviously, he's not a 7 Warlord, so you can't even pick him. And then add it to your hand, then place the remaining cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. One thing I don't like about this, it returns all the other cards at the bottom of the deck. What I like about this card is that if you cannot find a 3-cost Doflamingo blocker, you can play this. And I think that is really worth it, because essentially if you do see a 3-cost Doflamingo blocker, you just don't play this. You use this as a 1K counter. But if you don't see it, you play that. And with that, Sengoku might just be a 4 of, so you don't have to play as many things like Perona, because you're going to be really, really focused on your 3-cost Doflamingos that look at top 5. Now we also have Perfume Femur. This is actually more of a Boa Hancock card, but essentially this card is going to make Doflamingo really strong. So it's essentially Jinbei. Up to 1 of your 7 Warlords of the Sea type characters or leader gains 2K power for cost of 2 during main, right? So you gain power, and your opponent cannot activate a blocker when this card attacks. It does have an added effect where if you hit off a trigger, you can draw a card. So if you're like dead in the water, you don't need this card ever, then that's great. Use this card for that. But like getting 2K power for 2 costs is already good, but now that it's unblockable, you can actually go wide as possible and then start using these. So very, very powerful card. You're going to see people playing a lot of these and making the deck a lot more offensive. Another new card was actually Crocodile. When I saw this, I always say to myself, oh, another Crocodile blue card. This is going to be terrible. All Crocodile cards are usually so bad. However, this one's actually really juice. Again, it's a 4-cost, 5K power. It's a 2K counter. This is the same stat line as Mihawk. This might be better to play this instead of Mihawk from now on. So when you play this card, you can pay 1, and then you can return up to a 2 cost of you or your opponent's or lower to your hand or their hand. So it can really disrupt their field, or just put a card back into your hand that you already have on the field, like a searcher or of some sort. So that's my next thought about that. It's pretty good card. You're probably going to be playing this card because it's a 2K counter and a 5K beater, maybe alongside Mihawk. You might be running a lot of 2K counters in this deck in general. I do want to say, when it comes to countering, a lot of people will use events like Love Mellow. And if you actually run a lot of 2K counters, you can just get away with not running Love Mellow. It definitely makes a lot of sense when doing that against decks that go more wide. And you can even still just like leave Dawn up to fake your opponent you're going to use Dawn for like a level of mellow like effect. So just wanted to throw that out there, that essentially I think more 2K counters is good in the deck. Now, this new 3-cost Doflamingo. No counter, unfortunately. It's kind of the broken part about this. It does have 4K power. It essentially just says Doflamingo skill on it, but it's not on attack. You can just activate that by paying 2. You reveal the top card of the deck. If it's a 7 Warlord of the Sea, you call that out. If it's not, you actually have to put it on the bottom of your deck, and you have to call it out as rested, right? But essentially, you could use leader skill and this in the same turn, going super wide, and it forces your opponent to try to attack and remove those cards in order to kind of combat what you're doing. And you might have cards like Jinbei you can combine with this to make this pretty juicy. I find that this card's a really good combination with other cards. It may not be a 4 in your deck, but it definitely will be seen as something that lets your deck go wider than it actually should be. And that's essentially all the cards we've known so far. I'm going to be putting together some lists in the near future, so keep an eye on that, as well as a Boa Hancock, especially when OP07 is finally released. I'll be making some lists for people to kind of mess around with and have fun. But I appreciate you all watching this video, and I'll be making some more videos in the future. Make sure you guys please comment what you're looking to see. Thank you so much for watching.
Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video. Ciao.